Hello and welcome to the Feminine Millionaire Show. I'm your host, Polly Alexander. I'm a success coach, intuitive healer, and a passionate creative. And I believe that we all have the power to manifest magic and miracles into our life. If creating success in a spiritual, feminine, and joyful way is your goal, this show is for you. You'll understand how to overcome your past, bring your soul's greatest gifts to the world, and up-level your income, impact, joy, and happiness. Let's all rise together. Hello and welcome to podcast episode 120, How to Change the Energy Around Difficult Relationships. So this episode is for you if you find yourself thinking recurringly about an old encounter, an old trauma, or even an old partner. It's for you if you have a challenging relationship with one of your parents, or you're experiencing difficulties with a child, sibling, or family member. And perhaps you're holding frustration or resentment towards your partner, even though you love them. And maybe you're experiencing some challenges in the relationship dynamics. If that's you, this episode is also for you. And it's for you if you can't let go of a past betrayal, or you keep ruminating over what someone did to you and you can't somehow let go of that story. We're going to talk today about how you can shift all of these situations energetically. Before I dive in, a couple of things to update you on. The first is that I'm going to have a very special workshop coming up all about the feminine way of doing business. And we will get the link in the show notes as soon as that is live. And I have 3 spots available for a very special Black Friday offer. So if you check the show notes for this podcast episode, you will see the links for those amazing opportunities there. And November has been the month of saying no for me. I'm going to talk more about this when the month is over, and I'll be able to share with you what unfolded in this space I created. So as I went into the month, and as I shared a couple of episodes ago, my goal was to simplify and slow down. And in order to do this, it meant saying no a lot. It meant saying no to invitations. It meant saying no to requests for my time, my energy, or to meet up. And so often when we make a commitment to a new way of being or a new habit, the universe likes to test us. So as I set this intention to say no in November, at the beginning of the month, of course, the universe sent me a barrage of people and opportunities asking for my time to test if I was really serious about saying no. But I was, and I did. And interestingly, there's been this incredible forwards momentum as a result of that. And I'm going to dive more into that in a future episode. But perhaps I've said no to you. So just letting you know that this is No in November. This is my theme. It's freed up a huge amount of space mentally, physically, emotionally. And surprisingly, some interesting new things and momentum has come into that space. So more on that soon. So back to changing the energy around difficult relationships. Difficult relationships are really dynamics where we have conflict, misunderstanding, or some kind of resentment. Very common with parents and family members. Why do they occur? Well, ultimately, It's for soul growth and learning. We learn so much through our relationships with others, through being challenged, pushed, betrayed, loved, supported. So many different dynamics happen. But the problem happens is when we hold on to the negative emotions related to a relationship. Now, everything is energy. And unless the energy is consciously cleared, it lingers. So even if the relationship is no longer alive or active, or even the person is no longer alive, the energy stays on. Unless the negative energy created by this dynamic is consciously cleared, it will linger. Now, being attached to people is part of the human experience, and it helps us get our needs met, and it helps us survive. These attachments can be emotional and psychological, but also energetic. And it's this energetic component that can impact us in unseen ways. So, for example, let's say you've broken up with an ex and you can't stop thinking about him or her. It's likely you still have an energetic cord that needs to be dissolved, and possibly, of course, some processing and integrating work to do. So when we interact with other people, animals, places, or things, we interact on different levels: verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally, and also energetically. And if there's a particular significance to that relationship or encounter, that person, place, animal, or object, a cord of attachment is formed too. So I'm going to talk about that cord of attachment today. But let's start with 3 simple steps for changing the energy around difficult relationships. Well, the first one is to be willing to lean in and be curious, to move out of the emotional reaction and into curiosity. What is this all about? Why is this showing up for me? Why is this dynamic occurring? The second step is to uncover the patterns and energies playing out. So this is where you become a detective. The curiosity leads you to uncover the patterns and energies playing out. And the third part is really to take full responsibility for your part in it and be willing to accept both the other person and the dynamic, then let go, and maybe, only maybe, even forgive both yourself and them for their part in the dynamic. Now, that is a long process depending on the depth and the type of relationship. That can take a long time, so be gentle with yourself. But there's something I've uncovered which really helps accelerate that process. It helps you understand the patterns and energies playing out, and most importantly, release the negative energies so that you're more easily able to get to that place of acceptance, letting go, and maybe even forgiveness. And that method for uncovering the patterns and energies present in a relationship and releasing them is called cord cutting. Cord cutting has been around for centuries, and the concept of negative cords is thought to have its roots in Native American healing traditions, who believed in the idea that harmful or toxic relationships can manifest as energetic connections that can be cut. So what is cord cutting? Well, cord cutting is about working through the negative connection we might have to a particular person so that the heavy or difficult aspects, patterns and dynamics which make up the cord of attachment, both by you and the other person, because both people contribute to this cord, so that they're no longer affecting you. So this is about your freedom. This is about freeing you up emotionally and energetically. So I'm sure just by being here listening to this podcast, you know that everything is energy. So even things around us in the world that look solid, they're actually made up of tiny vibrating molecules. Everything is made of energy, and positive and negative experiences form positive and negative energy cords. Now, there's not a problem with a positive cord. It might bring up happy memories, make us feel warm, loved, supported. But negative cords are not so good. So negative cords are energetic connections that form when we have a significant relationship or encounter with someone. And it's actually an energetic structure which contains all the negative patterns and dynamics of that relationship between two people. And the energy flows back and forth between two people through these cords. So you contribute energy to the cord and the other person does too. And the more emotional, difficult or intense your experience with a person or place or thing has been, the bigger the negative cord between you will be. And negative patterns of emotion, thought, and behavior circulate in these negative cords until they're cut. And this is really important. These negative energies can filter through to the subconscious mind and affect our behavior, our thoughts, and our feelings. Now, we've all got many negative cords attached to our auras, and some are substantial and some are minor. Now, minor cords sometimes deposit so little negative energy into our auras that their impact is negligible and they're just not worth cutting. But the larger ones can have more of an impact on us and are almost always worth cutting. So perhaps you're wondering, why do we form negative cords in the first place? Well, a negative cord is formed when you become interested in another person and you've got some energetic investment or interest in the relationship, whether that's positive or negative. So this is any cord is formed. As soon as you become interested in another person, you've got this energy passing between you. And there are valuable life lessons encoded in these negative cords, which help us evolve on a human and soul level. If we are to learn and evolve from our experiences and our relationships, we need to have a look at what's contained within a negative cord before we can fully release it. So you can't just cut a negative cord by saying, please cut the negative cord, which you can do with a psychic tie. But these cords contain life lessons and information which we can't just ask to have dismissed from our lives. We need to gain awareness of the energies, learn from them and process them properly before we can release them. And a cord cutting session offers a process for gaining and integrating these insights and releasing the negative energy cords using dialogue and intuitive energy work. So you're probably wondering by now, okay, this all sounds super fascinating, but what are the benefits of cutting these cords? Like, what's on the other side? If I do this work, what can I expect to experience? Well, I'm going to start out with my personal experience. So I did a cord cutting, first of all, with an ex-partner. And this was with a practitioner. And I noticed that I stopped thinking about them. They just rarely came into my mind, and when they did, there wasn't an emotional charge there anymore. It was just like, oh, that's an old book in the past. And I also gained a greater integration of the purpose of that relationship through understanding what was in the core, the different dynamics. I was able to gain a lot more self-awareness and really integrate that relationship. I then did a cord cutting with a parent. And again, this shifted the emotional charge around that relationship, as well as bringing in really powerful learnings about the purpose of the difficult dynamic. So the first thing to know is that although not every cord is the same and the results can vary from one cord cutting scenario to the next, cord cutting can and does help us to heal from difficult relationships and experiences, to transcend limiting patterns in our lives, to extract the lessons from the past, and then be able to create more healthy relationships and more positive dynamics in the future. Cord cutting is about working through and severing the negative connection we might have to a particular person, so that the heavy or difficult patterns and dynamics which are contributing to the cord are no longer affecting you. So once these energy structures are dissolved, the person will no longer be stuck in old patterns, which can distort your thinking and your feeling. When you release them, you'll feel freer, lighter, and less emotionally triggered by that situation or person. And your thoughts, feelings, and actions will shift as a result. Now, here's something really important to share with you. Cutting a cord does not mean ending a relationship. Cutting a cord does not mean ending a relationship. It means releasing problems that repeat endlessly at the level of energy. So removing a toxic cord of attachment can only improve any relationship. So, as a cord cutting practitioner, I often deal with the kind of issues that people enter therapy for and do healing for. But in the cord cutting process, these issues are dealt with from a spiritual and an energetic perspective. So it can be a great complement to therapy. On an energetic level, cord cutting can help to balance our chakras, because the cords actually affect our chakras and our ability to function healthily in different ways. Some common effects of cord cutting include improved relationships, more peace and completion around a relationship, more grounding and feeling more present in one's life and body, a greater trust in one's intuition, greater connection with source, an increased sense of personal power, more courage to express oneself authentically and honestly, and more peace. Okay, I'm going to wrap up today by sharing what kind of relationships and cords are best suited to this type of work. Because maybe by now you've had someone pop into your head, or a situation from the past, or a trauma or an event that you've been holding on to, and you're feeling like maybe this could help me shift my energy, my feelings, my thoughts around this, and really bring completion, or really offer me an opportunity to improve my relationship. So I'm going to share some of the relationships which work really well with this cord cutting process. So first of all, parents and guardians. Substantial cords to our parents are formed early on, both positive and negative, and cutting a cord to a parent can be one of the most impactful types of cord cutting. Secondly, other important family members. So it could be siblings, children, parents-in-law. Thirdly, your partner or spouse. And by that I mean your current one. And it can often be helpful to cut the negative cord in an existing relationship where there are challenges. And if you remember, the negative cord only contains the challenging energies and dynamics from the relationship. So if you want to improve your relationship, it can help to cut this negative cord, and the two parties can still be connected afterwards. It can only improve the relationship. I actually did a cord cutting this week as I record this episode with a client for her relationship with her daughter, where they do not seem to understand each other, where they trigger each other a lot, where she feels a lot of disappointment around the relationship not panning out as she'd hoped. And at the same time, a deep desire and a deep love for her daughter and to improve it. So, close friends, another powerful cord, especially when a friendship has ended under difficult circumstances or when a friendship is going through challenges. Also, important people from your childhood years can be great cords to cut, including friends, teachers, and carers. And of course, past significant romantic relationships, especially where there was a divorce, a bad breakup, or maybe you still feel attached or experience longing for that person. And sexual partners, great cords to cut, because sexual relationships in particular can cause us to form substantial cords because of the intimate nature of these experiences. And the fact is we merge energetically with another person during sex. Okay, abusers. So we tend to form large negative cords to those who've mistreated us in some way, whether the abuse is emotional, physical, verbal, or sexual. Cord cutting can be particularly helpful for people who come from dysfunctional or abusive families, or for victims of bullying. And this kind of cord cutting can actually help reduce the effects of trauma. I've also done a cord cutting with someone that was being actively targeted by a bully in the present time. And after this, she experienced a shift in the bully's behavior towards her. Even though they weren't consciously aware of what was going on, energetically, they can sometimes sense it. And she felt very differently about the event and the experience after the cord cutting. Okay, other cords that are worth cutting are anyone involved with you in a major accident or anyone that's caused an accident, trauma, or injury for you. The effects of a traumatic experience involving another person can often be lessened by cutting the cord to the person who caused it or experienced it with you. Bullies, difficult employers, difficult colleagues, or difficult clients, those involved in any past or present experience that is particularly difficult or upsetting, such as childhood bullies, difficult employers, co-workers, clients, also cults or religious groups. If you've been a part of those in the past, you will have a cord to them. And close to my heart, cords to animals, places and objects. So, for example, if you can't stop grieving the loss of a pet, cutting the negative cords could bring you comfort and peace, allowing you to focus more on the love and happy memories. So, I hope this has been interesting and enlightening and supportive for you. And if you have a cord that you would like cut, then please reach out to me. Thank you for listening. Have an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. So, It's Black Friday and I'm going to join in the fun and the magic. So as this episode publishes, it is the Black Friday weekend. I've decided to make 3 cord cutting sessions available to the public. They are normally only available to private clients and those in my Thrive Beautifully Mastermind. I'm making the 3 sessions available at a very special rate for a deep dive cord cutting session with me. Just click on the link in the show notes to book. Bye for now.